Welcome to Recalibrate. This is a podcast of Caribou Road Christian Fellowship. Our hope is to create a moment where you get to take a look at your life through the lens of Christ's teaching and recalibrate.
Well, welcome back to Recalibrate. We're continuing to just look at this idea of wisdom and the invitation by James and also from the Proverbs for us to seek God for wisdom. In James chapter 1, he's telling us that in the middle of the trials and troubles that we face, and in this particular case where he's writing to these people, these are trials and troubles that they had no time to really plan for. If you remember, this is a group of people who were originally living in Jerusalem. Persecution came. They had to flee. They were essentially refugees. And now they find themselves living in parts of the country and even other countries that they are not even familiar with. And they're having to settle down and begin a new life. That's a lot of stuff coming at you. That's a lot of decisions. That's a lot of family dynamics and relational dynamics and career dynamics. And they're not the kind of circumstances where you can foresee it. You know, sometimes we face situations and we recognize that we should have planned better, we should have been more ready for it. But when we think of COVID, for example, I think most of us would say there was no way to plan for this. We had no idea what was about to come. And we'd heard about it, maybe that there would one day be some kind of virus coming, but honestly, not even the government was that prepared for what was about to come upon us. With that in mind, with the uniqueness of it and the suddenness of it and the fact that you couldn't plan for it, all the more we need wisdom. All the more we need understanding of how to navigate certain situations. But the truth is we need wisdom in every area of our life, don't we? Because wisdom has an implication in it that it is God-based. And I think all of us would love to be able to face the situations we face in life and have God answers to them. There are good answers, there are bad answers, there are temporary answers, and then there are God answers. And James tells us, when we read it in James chapter 1, if any of you lack wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to them. I just think that's one of the most remarkable promises in Scripture that James gives us. He just says, listen, if you need wisdom, whatever the situation is, you need God's insight, God's direction, God's understanding, particularly in these situations where you just weren't ready for them, then ask God, because He will give you wisdom. It's absolutely amazing. But then he says, when you ask, don't doubt. That is quite a big catch that he puts in this command or this encouragement to ask God for wisdom. He says, I don't want you doubting when you ask God that God can actually give you wisdom. I'm going to be honest and say that I have prayed for a lot of things in my life. I've prayed for healings for people, for miracles, for this and that. But when it comes to seeking God for wisdom, I actually find it one of the areas that I struggle sometimes to have faith in. I struggle sometimes to have faith to believe that God can actually give me clear direction in situations. That God can actually help me really understand a situation and unlock it. Like at work, as a leader of an organization, there are many times when we are struggling with decisions to be made, and sometimes I despair a little bit about whether we'll be able to come up with a good answer. Like right now, we're looking for a new leader in our church, and sometimes, particularly as I've seen some of the candidates that have come through that weren't really a very good fit for us, I begin to wonder if we'll ever be able to, get the right person. And I think that's kind of what James is addressing here. We are a flip-floppy people. When we face situations, our mouth often betrays what's going on inside the heart. We don't approach problems in life with this confidence that God will answer, that God will guide us, that God will speak into the situation if we ask Him. We often have a lot of doubt. We often have a lot of lack of confidence. Maybe it's because we expect God to answer immediately. And I think anybody would know that when you seek God for understanding and direction and wisdom in a situation, you do have to be prepared to wait. You do have to be prepared to spend time coming to the Lord with this issue, this request again and again, and know that the answer is not going to happen immediately. It will take time for God to work with you and help clarify and help kind of guide you and help in your own heart for you to recognize what is God and not God. That's a process, and that's a beautiful process. But when you're under pressure, it's an annoying process. But I think that God is committed to helping us. And I think that's one of the reasons we doubt. Or maybe it's inconvenient for us to wait on God. I think we also sometimes doubt because we think that the things we're asking for guidance in, for wisdom in, are not that important. Why would I just come with an issue with my daughter or an issue with my son? Why would I come and seek God for guidance and wisdom and for His work in that situation? And surely there's more important things. But James must be talking about really, really big issues, but I don't think that's true. He says, in all trials, various trials, count it joy. In all trials, various trials, ask God for wisdom. And I think that we shouldn't doubt that our situation is not worthy. It is worthy. I think we shouldn't doubt that God can answer, because He can answer, He will guide. We shouldn't doubt in God's faithfulness. He is faithful to do it. We shouldn't doubt in the ability of God, and that it's too complex, it's too hard to hear God. No, we shouldn't doubt in that way at all. James says that we have God can answer in every circumstance, and we shouldn't be like a boat tossed to and fro who feels helpless and hopeless. You know, you see boats that have lost their, like hurricanes come sometimes, and you see boats that were in the moorings and they break free. No one's on the boat. It's just being tossed all over the place. It has no direction, no purpose. We shouldn't be like that. We should have an undergirding faith and a confidence that God, in fact, if we seek Him, He will guide us, He will lead us. Coming into this pandemic, I would say that's one of the big things personally for me, that my faith is growing, that God does guide. I've seen it with so many people in our church. There's many people in business. And as they sought the Lord, when everything had been turned upside down, many of them ended up doing really well in their businesses because God gave them wisdom in those situations. Many of you in your careers or professions, God has given you wisdom, how to change, how to adapt, how to move forward. Many of you in your interpersonal relationships or the way you organize your lives, God has given you wisdom. I think James would say to us, listen, God's been faithful. He's already given you the word. He's already given you knowledge from before. But on top of that, He is leading and guiding you. It's interesting that wisdom in the Bible is personified, as I mentioned last time. And I think that's really important, because wisdom is not a set of systems or principles that we follow. That's definitely at the core of it, but it's not the way it works. We need, in every situation we face, unique wisdom. We may have all these principles, but we sometimes don't know which principle is the one that we should apply in this circumstance. That's why we need a person guiding us, Jesus, who is now the personification of wisdom. Well, we're going to finish up there. I hope that this today has really just been a simple encouragement to you. God gives wisdom. And if you seek Him, He will help you, whatever circumstance you are facing. As long as you're willing to wait, as long as you're willing to persevere in prayer, God is willing to give you insight, understanding, and wisdom in each of those unique circumstances. And His wisdom is amazing. It really changes the game. So I encourage you, count it all joy, because God will give you wisdom if you seek Him. There is no situation that God cannot guide you through. What an amazing promise, eh? The Lord bless you.
We want to thank you for joining us on Recalibrate today. For more information, please check out our website at crcfchurch.com.
Let your kingdom come, let your will be